I'm here with Daniel Rowland from Comstock Park, and the interviewer is Cody Leroy Rollins of the Grand Valley State Veterans History Project. All right, Daniel, let's just jump into this. When were you born and where at?
Well, I was born in Grand Rapids in 1975, July timeframe. At least that's what my parents tell me. They could be wrong. I don't know.
You never know. So, what was your early life like? What?
Yeah, pretty mundane. I mean, pretty common. Went to school, grew up, had an older brother who liked to, be an older brother. We'll just leave it at that. Nothing too exciting.
All right. When did you enlist, and what led you to that choice?
My brother had enlisted in the Marine Corps, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Then the sad fact was I actually applied for a NROTC scholarship and got a full ride to North Carolina State University, and my lack of discipline led me to drop out and enlist.
Okay, so you enlisted after spending how much time in college?
3 semesters.
Okay.
Because apparently if you go to college on the government's dime and don't finish, you owe them money, or you enlist. So
Sounds about right. Did your brother tell you all these cool stories? Did he prep you for boot camp or anything?
He only went in about a year and a half before me, so I mean he told me things, but in retrospect, I think he was just messing with me.
What type of things did he tell you then?
Oh, it's not that hard. It's fun, and typical big brother taunting the little brother things as you follow his footsteps that make it not as enjoyable as one would think.
Okay, so what was boot camp like then? Were you prepared for it at all, or?
In general, yeah. I mean, it's not physically, it wasn't that hard, but coming from 3 semesters in ROTC, I kind of already knew the drill of stuff. So, this is gonna sound self-aggrandizing to a certain extent. But I think it was about 2 weeks in, they made me the guide for the platoon, and I ended up doing that because I already knew a lot of the stuff, like ranks and all that. Because, like I said, the 3 semesters in ROTC kind of gave me a head start on everything that they teach you: common Marine Corps history, Navy ranks, Marine Corps ranks, how to march. Of course, that might have been 9 years of marching band too. But either way, yeah. I was a geek.
So you were pretty prepared
For the general knowledge and physical aptitude, but I'm sure, as you know, being a former Navy, is no matter how much you know, being prepared is not as easy as it sounds. Especially when you're the guide. Somebody messes up, you get punished.
Stepping back just a little bit, one thing I forgot to ask, did you have any family history of military, or were you and your brother kind of like the first?
I had an uncle serve in Vietnam, but he died there and I never knew him, so I couldn't say. And then my other uncle was in the Air Force for 2 years, but he went to Germany, came home, and he has some pretty weird stories, but we won't go there. Germans are weird, apparently.
So it was just you and your brother then? For the most part?
From that immediate family.
Okay.
Nobody else I knew served. I know my dad tried, but got 4F'd. His bad feet or something. And then I know my grandpa tried, but he owned a farm. We're like, we need you home for World War II. But nobody seemed to be able to get in until me and my brother.
Fair enough. Now, when you say 4F, you mean like medically?
Right, yeah. Between his eyes and his feet, I guess they didn't want him. Back then, they weren't as accepting back then of any little medical conditions, where nowadays they'll take anybody because they can fix most things. Here, have some new shoes.
So, going back to the boot camp thing, you said you were the guide. Was that like the leader of the cadets, or what was that?
Yeah, I don't know, what do they call it? Yeah, you're the head recruit. I guess you could say in charge, but you really weren't. You were pretty much the top. You were pretty much who the drill instructor was told to get stuff done, and you had to delegate.
And you were the one that got in trouble when someone else messed up.
Oh, yeah. There were mornings I would be up before the rest of the platoon getting thrashed because somebody messed up during the night or something. I don't know. I don't remember.
When you say getting thrashed, you mean like PT or like?
Yeah, they don't. No, they don't. They were not allowed physical contact. Like, they could make you run in place, do push-ups. There were 4 exercises. Flutter kicks, push-ups, run in place. I don't remember the 4th one off the top of my head. But basically, you did it until your arms were jelly and you couldn't do anything else.
And this was in '95?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they still kind of do it. I mean, it was a Marine Corps. You got to be hard ass, I guess. would be the term nowadays.
So pretty much everything else other than that you were good at, you knew.
I wouldn't say good at, but I knew enough to not have to, worry about it. How's that sound?
Do you have any issues with the other recruits? I know sometimes they don't take.
Well, being the guide, yeah, sometimes like you'd have the one that just couldn't get anything right or was moving too slow, and you either had to help him out or get thrashed more. I was in pretty good shape when I got out of boot camp.
All right. So once you graduated boot camp, what did you move on to?
Marine combat training, which is 3 weeks of just basic. Because every Marine is a rifleman, so we basically go somewhere and spend 3 weeks in the field and living in tents and walking through woods. Nothing amazing.
Nothing fun happened there?
Well, one time it rained so hard that we had to come back from out of the field, and when we went back the next day, finding all of our gear in the mud was fun. Yeah, it was out in California. Ooh, joy of joys.
So that was out in California.
Yeah, it was like one of those flash floods.
So where did you go to boot camp at?
San Diego. I was a Hollywood Marine, as they call it.
So you went all the way from Michigan to San Diego for boot camp.
Yep, and I came home for 10 days and went back out to California to Camp Pendleton for the combat training.
All right, and where'd you go after that?
Went to North Carolina for my job training, which I was initially an administrative clerk. Yay! I know, right? I got to learn how to type.
That's fun.
And file things.
So nothing exciting happened there?
Well, it was kind of fun. But my brother was stationed at Camp Lejeune, and when everybody else had to stay on the base when we got there, I got to leave for the weekend, and it really pissed a lot of people off. Because, reasons.
Yeah.
And then, I ended up getting married out of job training. I met a female Marine that was going to school as well. And let's just say that didn't end well, but I'll just leave that at that.
Fair enough.
What? If we're going to talk about it, might as well just throw it all out there, right?
Hey, it's your story.
And I drove cross country and went to Hawaii for 3.5 years.
Why did you have to drive cross country?
Well, that was one thing my brother was good for. He was a traffic management office or whatever. He's the guy that ships stuff around, and when we graduated job training, they're like, you can only take like 2 sea bags with you. And then I asked my brother, he's like, no, man, you can ship whatever you want. Car or whatever. So I bought a car, drove across country, had it shipped out of San Francisco, and then went to Hawaii. Because I'm like, because you know how they are. They want to tell the new guys, oh, no, you can't do this or that. And, I mean, if I was going to be there for 3.5 years, I'm gonna have some stuff.
Fair enough.
For some reason, cars in Hawaii are way overpriced.
I can confirm that.
I assume it's shipping costs.
That and just everything's expensive in Hawaii. That's just how it goes.
Oh my. It was expensive 20 years ago when I was there. You can only imagine today.
So where'd you get stationed at in Hawaii?
Camp Smith. It's a little podunk base right above Pearl Harbor in a residential area. Nice view, though. I'll give them that. When you look down, you can see Pearl Harbor, Hickam Air Force Base, Ford Island, which is right in the middle of Pearl Harbor. It's pretty nice.
Okay, so
it only had 4 barracks on the base and like 10 houses. It was Commander-in-Chief Pacific's headquarters and Marine Forces Pacific headquarters. There might have been 400 or 500 people stationed there. But it was interesting and small. I don't know. It wasn't too bad.
And you did what there?
I was an administrative clerk. I worked in the Force Adjutant when I first got there but before everything was electronic, we got to actually file all the orders and stuff. So, that was fun. And then I worked down in the classified vault for a couple of years. Then I ended up in the security manager's office doing background checks and all that fun stuff.
Okay.
Because, somebody's got to do it. So, a wide array of things. Went to Korea a couple times for some exercises. I got to go to Seoul and Osan and, see other countries and have some fun.
And what time frame did you go to Korea?
96, 97. They were only for like a month or two each time. Okay. It wasn't just some little exercises to annoy the North Koreans, I guess.
Were you on like ships there, or
No, we'd fly over and then work in some office, in some base. I don't remember. The one time we were in the Korean Marine Corps base, living in GP tents on their dirt soccer field in the middle of summer, and it gets hot over there. And to boot, the plumbing doesn't take toilet paper well. Yeah, you've never been to Korea, have you?
I've been, but
And when you wipe, you throw it in a trash can next to the toilet. And then they would take it out and burn it. Well, we were right downwind from the burn pit. So needless to say that one of my times in Korea was not the most fun.
so were you feeling some animosity from the South Koreans, or was this just all by?
No, that's just the way they did it. I mean, they had space to, because their little headquarters was like on a hill, so any flat land you could get was amazing. So we just happened to be right downwind from the burn pit.
That's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, because we had walked through the bulk of it on our way to Chow. So by the time you got there, it was a great dieting technique, I guess. You didn't have to feel the urge to eat.
So were you working like hand in hand with the South Koreans, or?
Yeah, they were just joint exercises. I mean, we were the command element, so we didn't actually like go out and do stuff. We were just doing, like, the fake information would come in, we'd process it, and then disseminate down to lower commands of guys actually doing stuff. So nothing amazing.
And were you like sitting with generals and doing all this, or were you just like sitting in a little tent typing on a thing?
Well, I was representing the security manager, so I basically was the guy running around shredding classified material. Nothing too pressing.
Okay.
Yeah, my job was not. It sounds all nice, but it's not as glamorous as one would think.
Were you like, did you not enjoy this job? I'm assuming you didn't sign up with the Marines to be a clerk.
When I signed up, they gave me one of those job option packages that was airfield service support, so like air traffic controller. So it was legal clerk or administrative clerk. So I'm like, I was fine with two of them, but not the third, and I'm sure you can guess which one I got. Because I'm like, well, hey, legal clerk and air traffic controller, that sounds kind of fun. And based on my scores, I'm like, admin is like, out of the three, the dumbest people go to admin, and I don't know why. But whatever. I'm not going to complain. Needs of the Marine Corps.
Fair enough.
So I got stuck there.
So your time on Hawaii was pretty uneventful?
Yeah, for the most part. I went to school while I was there because, of course, when I dropped out of college the first time, my dad's like, you're never going to finish now. So I had to prove him wrong because I'm just that stubborn.
What did you get your degree in?
Associates in business and a bachelor's in social work. And then spent my last year, got divorced while I was there too, and let's just say as a single guy with a year left on the island, I had some fun, but we won't go into that. This is a family program, apparently.
So,
and then I got out in I went on terminal leave into 98 and came home and got out and went to the IRR, the Individual Ready Reserve.
Yep.
And hung out for a while. So.
Okay. And
I'm just going to roll into the next part, I assume.
Yeah.
So employment was, like I was trying to, I think at that time, that's when they actually changed. In Michigan, it was weird. You only needed a bachelor's of social work to work in the field, and then they changed it to master's degree and all that stuff. So I'm like, needless to say, trying to get a job in the field I wanted wasn't that great. So during that time, as a reserve Marine, I could volunteer to do active duty every now and then. I went a couple places just for like, we need somebody here for a month or a month there. So I dabbled around. And then in 2001, there was an opportunity to go down to North Carolina for 6 months. And I'm like, okay, I'll go down there. So I signed up and they flew me down. And needless to say, in November or in September, stuff happened. And at that time, then we went over to Afghanistan. Well, I didn't go, but then the military went to Afghanistan. And since I was there, I volunteered for 6 months. And then since I was there when 9/11 happened, they started calling up all the reserves. Like, well, while you're here, here's some orders to stay another year. And then I was officially involuntarily recalled. And for the next, till 2004, every year I would get additional orders to stay another year. So I was basically involuntarily activated for 2 years.
And how did you feel about this? Were you upset?
I was fine. It's not like I had a job back home. I'm like, well, hey. And when I got there, I was working I was originally working for the Marine Reserve Unit out of Lejeune, and then I got moved up to the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force Command Element, because a guy I worked with in Hawaii, he was a colonel now. He's like, "Oh, you're here." I'm like, "Oh, how you doing?" Because as you know, the military is actually kind of small, especially the Marine Corps. So, having worked in the security manager's office in Hawaii, he stuck me in the security manager's office in Lejeune. So, because they were just starting the office. So, I'm like, okay. And by that time, I was a corporal, and I basically got to set that up. So that was fun, learning, basically doing my old job again, which was kind of weird because as an administrative clerk, you can work in pretty much you can work with any unit, every unit rated administrative clerk. You know, so you can do 30 years and do the same job twice. So, but apparently I got stuck in the same job again. But, you know, it pays off at the end.
So when you were recalled, or not recalled, but when you went down to North Carolina for the 6 months, was that to do administrative work or were you doing something else?
Well, yeah, it was, they were just, from my understanding, I don't know for sure, what was it called? It was like the Marine Augmentation Command Element. Basically, it's where a bunch of reserve guys, like older, higher ranking guys that retired and were still reserve. It's like if the command element ever went to war, these guys would get called up to fill in key positions back in the rear. So they were just setting up, and they just needed people to come down and help them set up their infrastructure and stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, 6 months. I've been doing admin stuff. No big deal. I needed a job. They needed Marines. I'm like, oh, I'll just go. And then, like I said, 9/11 happened, and stuff just got real.
Yes.
And, you know, I was cheap to call up because I was already there.
Fair enough.
And so then what happened? I don't know. That was 2001, 2002. Then I was dumb and got married again in 2003. So yeah, I got married in February 2003. They had just gone over to invade Iraq in December, and my office had sent a Marine who apparently doesn't know how to jump, got injured getting off a helicopter, and they're like, oh, hey, you're going over to replace him mid-deployment. I'm like, okay. So after being married 3 weeks, I got whisked away to Iraq in 2003. And I worked with I guess it'd be more commonly called Task Force Tarawa, the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Brigade. And when I got to them in March, it was the Battle of Nasiriyah. And I was tasked as the assistant security manager of basically the tent where the general and all his command staff were. And got to oversee the little security element we had and all this other fun stuff. I was a sergeant by then too. And I would stay there for the next 7 years. We'll get into that later.
When you say stay there, you mean stay a sergeant, not stay.
Right, yeah, not in Iraq, though I was there enough. I should have bought a summer home. So, yeah, just to gloss my own ego more, I was a meritorious sergeant. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's for the record. Because I was such an outstanding jarhead.
Not outstanding enough to be an E6, but...
Oh, no, but they give E5 and under away as like candy. Like, oh, here, get promoted. So I was over there and gotten some, because we were responsible for the bulk of the forces, the Army and the 1st Marine Division went up through Saudi and went northwest and then swung around to Baghdad. We were supposedly tasked with mop-up operations heading in right south of Baghdad and then swinging east. So we had all these little small towns and crap, but Nasiriyah was the worst fighting of the invasion. I was not actually in the fight, but we were right behind them. You know, command element, we basically told everybody what to do, and you could see all the crap coming back and all the casualties, this, that. I mean, I'm nowhere near like a World War II or Vietnam scenario. I think our casualties are only like 100 or less if you do MIA, or wounded and killed. So the WA and KIA, I don't know. Yeah. Got to work on our acronyms.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, I don't know.
So you never saw any of the actual fighting? No one ever attacked the
Well,
command
you could
element?
hear it, and when you went outside, you could see it, because a lot of it was at night. You could see the artillery, the LAVs, the tanks, all the firefights and stuff. Because we were just on the other side of there's a river that runs by it in the bridges, and we were on the back end of it, and we could kind of see down. You could see it all going on.
Okay.
So not the same as being obviously in it. So I can't make any grandiose claims like that. But anyway, after that, then we moved on. We ended up in some old Iraqi air base by Al Qut. Hung out there for a couple months after the invasion ended and sweat a lot. because the desert's hot in the summer.
I had no idea.
Really? You learn something new every day.
Exactly.
And then came home.
So during the actual fighting, I'm assuming you weren't working on security clearances and that sort of thing.
No, I mean, most of it there was, most of my job, and at the end of the day, was just making sure the area was secure. People that came and went had clearances. We didn't actually process. Clearances were for the rear. You showed up, you either had it or you didn't, so it was nothing amazing. Though I did get to see how things happen at a command level. You know, it's like the fly on the wall. I just like walk in the tent and just see everybody doing their jobs. Like the three shop who was operations, and then all the other guys are like, oh, we need this, we need that, tell them to do this. You know, like you see war movies and you just see the soldiers around fighting, but, you know, actually seeing the puppet masters, I guess you'd call them. Because, you know, if you're the guy down in the front line fighting, you know, you just go where you're told. But seeing how they make those decisions at the higher level, I guess, was pretty good for an experience level. So,
Did you ever have any issues with officers?
who doesn't? No, not at that time, really. It was actually, again, the Marine Corps would end up being small again later on in my career. But no, at the time, well, everybody's so focused on the job at hand, which is, you know, war, which is kind of why we exist, that, you know, personal animosities between each other. Though there was one captain. He was the general's aide de camp, and he was kind of a douchebag.
What did he do?
No, he was just a dick.
Oh, fair enough.
Well, because, you know, here's the general making all the decisions, and this is basically his lackey. Carry my briefcase and crap. So he had nothing else to do but harass us. There was me, the general's terp, and his driver, and he always seemed to give us crap for no reason. He's like, oh, you need a haircut. And I'm like, right.
We are at war.
There are some people, no matter what you're doing, that want to stick to military protocol like it's going to be the end of the world if you don't. I mean, we're talking about a guy, so like we're in a town, you know, trying to take it over and stuff, and he would find some Iraqis out in town to like press his camis and pay him like a couple bucks.
Wow.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. There's just some people that are like, what? I mean, we were in mop gear for like over a month. I forgot the actual the biological weapon, because we were still, he's got WMD.
Yeah.
You know, so we had on this mop gear for over 30 days. I mean, we were invading. No showers, no, you know, baby wipes became our friends. So we were pretty nasty. So I'm like, I didn't get a haircut, really? But anyway, he annoyed me, but that was about it.
So when you were over in Iraq, other than the administrative work, you know, what did you do after the invasion?
We sat around because the invasion was late March, early April, and we were there till like the beginning of July, end of June, and we just sat there. That was it. I mean, you're an occupied. I mean, because they're still figuring out what they're going to do with the country, and we're just like, we're hanging out, doing nothing.
And after
Played lots of spades.
After that, what happened? When did you leave? And
we got back on the ships. See, they went over in December on the ships, and then like I said, I flew over mid-deployment, and then we got to take the ships back, so that was fun. But I got on the boat and took the longest shower of my life, maybe, but it was nice. And then we got to float home. Yeah. Stopped in Lisbon on the way. That was fun.
what ship were you on?
Was it the Nassau? Yeah, I think it was the Nassau. We had the Nassau, the Kearsarge, and I forgot the third ship in our little fleet, but it was a hootenanny. Got to go through the Suez Canal and man the guns. You know, hey, we're jarheads. What else we got to do, right?
I'm assuming nothing tried to attack you. Or
That's standard protocol when you're going through the canals and the stuff is they man the guns on the side. So whatever, but got to go past the Rock of Gibraltar. That was fun looking. I guess there's, I mean, you're Navy. All the little weird things like the shellback, or if you cross the equator and this, we got one for going through the Suez. And
so the military traditions where they kind of haze you and you get a little award afterwards.
Not for that one. You just got it for going through the Suez and the Med. Yeah, I've heard of some of the things they do, and Seabats and all that.
Yeah.
We'll leave that for you to explain to somebody later.
Shellback's a whole different beast.
No, you never heard they never did the sea. Hey, we got a Seabat under that container, and then you go for it. Never mind.
Yeah, the old the hazing techniques to make you go just
Left-handed
waste your
wrench,
time.
100 yards of flight line, that kind of stuff.
Go wait for the mail buoy, that sort of thing.
Hey, give me some blinker fluid.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Keys to the Humvee.
So the Navy was kind of messing with you guys a little bit.
Well, and that was it, though. And, man, I tell you what, the Navy cooks are actually pretty good. I don't know. Well, compared to eating MREs for 3 months, I guess anything was good.
So
And so I get back, and, that's it. So by then, I'm married, got a kid on the way, and I'm still on involuntary orders. So I'm like, well, I should probably go, because by this time I had almost 7 years in. I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back to active duty. And that took a year, because recruiters suck.
So where were you at for this year? Were you just...
I was still recalled reservists back in my old job in Camp Pendleton. And that's when I got my Navy Achievement Medal and all that other crap for a job. I don't even know what I did. They give them out like candy. So they're like, oh, hey, everybody gets one. Unless you're infantry, then you don't get anything.
Yeah.
So I tried to come back in. Takes them a year. I tried going officer too. That didn't pan out. I don't know. So apparently, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So then I go back. Then they let me back in June of 2004. And I tried going back in as an intelligence analyst. Because I'm like, well, I've already got the clearance. I mean, I kind of needed a high clearance for my old job. And then I figured they may retake the ASVAB and scored perfect. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can get this is no problem. They're like, oh, we can let you back in, but only as infantry. I'm like, what? It's the only thing we have open. So, of course, I took it because I got a kid on the way. I'm married, I got to provide for my family. And then I come to find out later there were still, like, openings for the intel analysts. Apparently, recruiters even treat Marines like 17-year-olds and just meet their quotas. But I'm still a little bitter about that.
That's understandable. So when...
Yeah. I had 2 college degrees, a 99 in the ASVAB, and a top secret clearance. I was like, why couldn't I get the job? Anyway.
That is a bit on the ridiculous side.
So I guess I went in as one of the smarter grunts. So that was, June of 2004. I got to my unit in August of 2004. 2nd Battalion, 6 Marines. 2nd Marine Division, blah, blah. And then they stuck me in weapons company. I was going to become an anti-armor assaultman, 0352. Basically, we shoot rockets at tanks.
Okay.
And at that time, they told me, oh, they just got rid of on-the-job training, which means you could, like, work with the unit for, like, 6 months and get your new job designation. So you have to go back to training. So I'm a sergeant with 7 years in, and they sent me to basically back to combat training with a bunch of frickin' 18 and 18-year-old privates.
That sounds fun.
Oh, it was a hootenanny. It wasn't really that bad. There were 2 corporals with me there too, and the instructors pretty much let us not do all the dumb crap.
They knew you, essentially.
Well, considering I outranked most of my instructors, I was like, okay, like no cell phones or no smoking for the privates, but then we go hang out with the instructors behind one of the buildings and call our wives and smoke cigarettes. Because if it wasn't anything essential, like especially the first 3 weeks, was basically a rehash of combat training, and then the last 4 weeks you break up into your specific jobs. They train all the infantry there, so we just went to class and then graduated and went back to our units. It was still fun though, and that's when I found out I lost all my time and grade as a sergeant. Yeah, I was promoted June 2003 to sergeant. Was it? No, 2002. And then when I came back on active duty, they reset my data rank, which being in the military, one of the important parts of getting promoted is time and grade.
Yeah.
So you have to be a certain rank so long before you're even eligible for the next rank. So I lost like 2.5 years time and grade. That was fun.
And you couldn't fight that at all? Or?
No, even though I was involuntarily activated. That comes in later. It's just a big whine fest, I think. So I graduate in October 04, go to my unit, and then the next, when was it? No, it was the next October 05. But in that time, they sent me to Sergeant's course, some counterterrorism course, all these freaking courses, because apparently they thought I was smart or something. And then October 05, we head over to Fallujah, Iraq. This was after the push through. I think it was Phantom Fury is what it was called. We were the first unit to take over the area after the push through. And at that time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a platoon sergeant because, I'm a sergeant. And then they're like, nope, you're going to headquarters company. I'm like, what? And then they stick me in an entry control point in the middle of Fallujah. Basically, the city was, I don't want to say quarantined or blockaded, but to get in the city, you had to go through one of 6 checkpoints. They had to search you. We had a little vehicle, all these, kind of like the TSA, but, not as stupid.
Yeah.
So I got stuck there for that deployment. Nothing too exciting. I had a little satellite outpost where we did commercial traffic semis and crap. We got to a firefight a couple times because we were like right on the main highway, and right behind us was like this big gully. I don't even know. So somebody could just like walk into the city through it if they were so motivated, but they pop up and take pot shots at us, and that was not as exciting as it sounds because you're on a. We did 24 on, 24 off, so you'd be bored most of the time. Search the search the big truck full of stones. We had these long like rebars we have to stick in there, and we're looking for bombs or something. I don't know. And then pretty quiet till March of '06, and our main checkpoint got blown up from one of those orange dump trucks. Google it, you'll see them. And somebody decided to blow it up, and we only lost one Marine and a couple of Iraqi guys because we had the Iraqi Army and police working with us too. About 30 wounded because the concrete barriers they like to use like to turn into microscopic shrapnel once you have a couple thousands of pounds of explosives go off next to it. So in a couple days, all the guys that had the fragments in them from the explosion started becoming sick. Their bodies rejected it. But since I was at the little satellite outposts, I went over because the explosion was, we were 600 yards from them, and it knocked me on my ass. That's how big the explosion was.
Wow.
And then I got to go over there with some of the Iraqi guys, and it was just like the little building, everything was just knocked the hell down. But most of and they ever teach you OPSEC? I assume they teach you OPSEC when you're in, if you travel, change your routes and stuff. Well, our brilliant bosses, every day at the same time was the changeover. When the one team would come out and go off. So after 6 months of doing the same thing every day, they knew when to hit us. So needless to say, it was kind of, and I'd pointed this out months before, but I was just a E5. What did I know? It's not like 7 years being in a security office, going to, the Naval Criminal Investigation Security Managers course, the DSS Security Managers course. I got certificates a mile long, but no, I didn't know nothing. Being a security manager for the invasion for a general, no, what did I know? Because, those clover leaves when you get on the highway, they like wrap around. We were like right in the middle of one.
Okay.
So when somebody hits the on-ramp, they can look down. And it was just, this is something a frickin' moron should be able to look and look. That doesn't seem that secure with the on-ramp open, so whatever. So I started building an animosity towards officers, more so after that, because, when they don't listen, it's like, really. But anyway, that's beside the point.
So,
and that was the first time I lost somebody under my command, so. Because technically I was second in charge of that unit. I had a E7 and then me, and then we had like 15 guys under us, and whatever, so still a little haunted by that. Anyway.
So, stepping back a little bit, when it comes to working with the Iraqi police and...
Yeah, they were pretty good. Nothing weird about them. Just dudes trying to make a living.
You didn't worry at all that they might be with any of these groups, or...
Not at that time, because we're talking a couple years after. I guess the local government, they had a pretty good way of vetting them. I mean, I never had a problem with them. Hell, usually when we'd close down the post, we'd go... Because we had a little trailer, and these guys, I don't know if you ever saw the big shipping containers. They would basically, they built bunk beds and stuff in there for them, because those guys were out there for like a month. They weren't, like, after 24 hours, we go back to our little base, have our nice little beds, and these poor guys were out there. But we go in there, we'd smoke hookahs with them, have some tea, play cards, whatever. Just dudes. Okay. Well, let's just say they love cell phones, too, because they would show some nasty stuff. They're just red-blooded dudes like anybody else, man. They were just trying to make a living to support their families.
Yeah.
So for the most part, no, I never had to worry about them. But yeah, I'd also gone through an Arabic course, so I could even speak a conversational toddler. So that was fun too. That's the way I look at it. I was never that great at it.
Did any of the guys under your command have any issues with them, like pick fights with them or anything?
No, I think initially some guys were worried, but after a month or two, you find out they're just regular guys, and there's nothing
Okay.
bad about them. Which is, I guess, counterintuitive from what people have been told. But like a lot of guys that would even put the bombs on the side of the road, it's not like they were fundamentalist terrorists. Somebody's like, "Oh, hey, here's a couple $100. Go put this." But this was the point where they were stopped setting them off themselves. It was the ones where, well, the full term would be victim actuated improvised explosive devices. Pretty much like imagine a pressure plate, and when you drove over it, it would complete the circuit and blow up. So some of these guys would go and just set them up, and the ones that we would caught, they weren't terrorists or anything. They're just like, oh, hey, somebody paid me X amount of dollars to do this.
And did you ever catch any of these guys?
Well, I mean,
yourself,
we did,
or?
and other
Okay.
like other units we were pretty stationary, so we weren't even mobile. But from what I heard, a lot the ones they did catch in the acts, they were just doing it because they were paid.
Yeah.
Because that during that period of time, that was before the full rebuilding effort was. It was hard, man. I can imagine a guy, hey, I need to get food for my family. Here's a dude. Hey, here's some money, man. Go put this over by the road. Okay.
Yeah.
So I wish it was as clean cut as that. Oh, here's a bad guy. Shoot him. But is he a bad guy or just someone down on his luck? I don't know. It's it's always a lot more complicated than people make it out to be in the media.
Yeah.
But anyway, at the end of that, then we came home in April of '06. And we did what Marines do, run a lot, train a lot, and get ready to go back over the next year. So then we went back in April of '07. That was the standard fare. Go for 7-8 months, come home for 8 or 9, and then go back over. But that 8 or 9 at home you weren't home. Yeah. We had to go to California for a month or two, then we had to go to Virginia, all this training, go in the field every other week, it seemed like. Train.
Now, going back to the orange dump truck, did that at least spark some change? Like, did you guys move the security point at that point?
No, they had it rebuilt within 24 hours. They closed the on-ramp.
But
that was it.
That's...
We were gone within a month, so nobody seemed to care.
Oh, okay. And
the prevailing attitude is if you're a lower rank, you're expendable. I mean, let's call it what it is. Your job is to die for the cause, and if you do, they'll just, hey, we got guys back at the base. We'll just fill in the roster, because that's all they did when everybody got hit. I think 4 or 5 of us out of 30 people between the two crews, like 3 or 4 of us stayed out there, and they just replaced them with a bunch of other dudes. It was like we didn't miss a beat. Can't stop operations, man. Mission accomplishment, all that crap. So yeah, they closed down the ramp. Engineers rebuilt the place in like a couple hours, and hey, we're up and running again.
Wow.
Military efficiency. Woo! I mean, that's just the way it works, man. Which I understand, but then it seems like the lack of... I understand that you have to do what you have to do. I get that. But then it seems like even afterwards, when you do have time to breathe, nobody else really seems to give a crap. I mean, now obviously in old school conventional wars, when you had to push through, yeah, you didn't have time, and I get that. But like what we were doing, out of 7 months, 6.5 of it was pretty damn boring.
Yeah.
So needless to say, but there's always downtime, especially when we were home within a month. It's like, okay, thanks for not giving a shit.
So you went home, you did your year of training.
Yeah, and then we went back. This time I actually was a platoon sergeant. And I got my own 24 guys, we were a mobile assault platoon, 5 gun trucks and a high back, which is basically a pickup truck with big walls. And we got to travel around and try to find interesting people and shoot them. So that was a hoot. But things had really quieted down by then compared to the last time. I think the first time I was in Fallujah, everything was blowing up, and there were broadside bombs like every 5 feet, it seemed like. But the second time, it was actually pretty quiet.
Were you again near Fallujah?
We were in the same exact spot.
Same on-ramp and everything?
Well, no, that was the entry control point. This time I was actually with the weapons company with an actual mobile assault platoon. But, I mean, we were on the same forward operating base. Some of us were sleeping in the same beds we were a year before. We were exactly back. The only difference was the first time we were there, the city was like divided up into 3 areas, and all these different units had a different area of responsibility. When we went back, we had the whole city to ourselves. It had to calm down that much. So we're like, okay. And for the most part, like I think the first time we were there, we lost 10 or 12 guys, maybe. There was actually a sniper out there in January too when we were there. He killed a couple guys, mostly Iraqi police, Iraqi army. I think we lost a couple guys, and we lost about 10 to 15 guys, and I think we had about 20 wounded. The second time we were there, I think we lost 2, maybe 3.
Okay.
But one of them was we were there like not even a week, and some engineer that had been attached to our unit, new guy, went to a porta shooter and offed himself.
Jeez.
And then another one, some dude was driving down the road really fast, and his Humvee hit a dune, and the guy got flown out of the back and killed. So 2 of our KIAs were through accidents or self-inflicted injuries. So I guess you don't count those when you're talking killed in action, which is normally enemies, but this time no.
I mean, it's still people dying.
I understand the sympathy from regular, but when you're in that scenario, it's like, well, one died because they were stupid. Like, don't speed when you're Humvee down the road, So he was a casualty of stupid, and the other was, well, I guess he got there and he couldn't hack it, but he'd only been there a week. So is it sad? Yes, but can I feel sympathy towards him? Not really. I mean, if you don't want to go, I understand that. But like we had guys that were more creative. They were like self-inflicting injuries before we left, like dropping weights on their feet and breaking their feet. Oh, that's fine. You get charged for malingering, but still, you don't have to go.
I mean,
I'm just saying, if you don't want to go to Iraq, there's things you can do before we even leave where you're not offing yourself. I'm just saying. But
so
callous, but
yeah.
When you've been over there multiple times and you've seen your friends die from enemy action and crap, it's hard to feel sympathy for other people. Like, you know what you were getting into when you signed up, especially in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd already been at war for like 6-7 years. It's like, if you signed the dotted line and didn't think you were going, why'd you sign up? It's not like they were drafted. It was still an all-volunteer force. Sounds cold, but given the circumstances, you should probably know what you're getting into. And besides, he was like a motor team mechanic or an engineer. It's not like they ever left the base. Again, not trying to be a dick, but from my perspective, it's like, oh, I gotta go out into town 2-3 times a day and potentially get shot at, and you're sitting here, on the base, really not doing anything. And by then we had a nice chow hall.
Yeah.
I mean, like salad bars, sandwich bar. It was nice. They even brought in the guys from India to work it for us. It was pretty swank.
So when you were going out and, as you said it, searching for interesting people to meet and shoot, did you have a lot of action?
Not as much as one would think, but it seemed the other units or the other platoons always got the fun stuff. Hell, it was our first week. We got there, and then we ripped with the unit we're replacing, which is like right in progress. Basically, like, they go out, and then like your leaders will ride with them, and then you'll slowly phase in your guys and replace theirs. I think it was about the second week. We're driving down the road, and we get called to go to a incident, and somebody had been driving down the road, and some idiot, and I use these terms with endearment, had the ass end of a convoy and wandered off onto a dirt road and gotten belly shotted. By this time, the insurgent tactics had moved to burying IEDs in the road. So, general protocol was don't drive down dirt roads. Well, somebody did. And belly shotted a Humvee, and we got to go clean it up.
By that you mean they drove over it and the bomb went off under?
Yeah, if I was me standing in the blast, like my head stuck up. I don't know if they buried it that deep or was the explosion, because I don't even know what munition they used. We were just there for cleanup. So most of the time you think the 155 shells or whatever, where the charge would blow up, but this could have been one that blew up and down and made the hole deeper. I don't know. But yeah, we got to pick up a couple guys in Ziploc bags and take him to the main base morgue, and I think half of our guys were like new, so we kind of like left them over on the road while we collected things and brought them back. But like it was just sloppy. It always seemed, because as a mobile assault platoon, we were more. We were too fast for like them just to sit down and ambush us. That'd be more for like the foot patrols. We were more reactionary, so we'd always show up when things were going on or just finished. That was kind of our job. Or to project a military presence.
Basically, you would go around.
Is that the correct term that they use? Or projecting force? I don't even know. So, and then another this one's funny. We had there was a big intersection in Fallujah, and the Iraqi police, I don't even know stoplights. They made like this little plywood. I'm trying to think what just imagine like a little plywood, like toll booth, if you would, a little bigger, with a roof on it and surrounded by sandbags. And they're out there directing traffic, whatever. And somebody takes, I guess, sidestep. Our commander, the battalion commander, they basically more effectively cinched off the city to prevent, ammunition and bombs coming in. So, and it worked, because eventually the insurgents in the city started making their own. It was some yellow powder, I don't remember. But anyway, this little bongo truck, it looks like a roller skate. You just Google bongo truck and you can see they're ridiculously small. This thing was loaded with barrels of this explosive. And he's rolling down the road, runs into this Iraqi police post, and detonates. Now, the one thing that apparently insurgents can't do is make their own explosives. So the stuff in the cab went off. Nothing else did. So he hits this little post of these guys. I think one dude ended up breaking his leg just from the force of the impact. But that was it. We got called up, and we got to cordon off the area and secure it, because it's still explosives. So we're just sitting there looking at this little blue bongo truck, and inside the cab it's just messy, because the guy managed to blow himself up, and it's just guts and gore all over the windows. And of course we found it hilarious. It's like, if you're going to die for the cause, fine, but I expect you to want to take more than just yourself with you. Of course, the downside is all this stuff spilled over the road. We had to wait for explosive ordnance guys to come out and clean it up, and I think we spent like 12 hours out there. It was totally boring. But at one time, like, this dog runs by and runs away with the guy's hand, and yeah, go ahead and laugh. It was. Now at this point, you're in country a few months. You're just bored out of it. You're just laughing so hard, because they opened the door to try to, check the detonation device and all that other stuff. And this dog runs by. So yeah, we had fun too.
Were you still on pretty good terms with the Iraqi police and military there?
Yeah, the police are from the area. The Iraqi army would normally be from a different part of the country. Yeah. Because I guess you'd look at it like, if you think back to the Civil War, they'd have like the Michigan whatever unit. They're all from the same town or whatever. And that's the way the Iraqi army was. So, and they would bring in guys from a different part of the country because they didn't know anybody locally. But the Iraqi police were local. Yeah, they were pretty good guys. No problems there.
What about the civilians?
You know what? They're just people trying to live their lives, man. But for the most part, they just did what they did. And we just wandered around. It comes to us. If you weren't dicks to them, or you weren't overly harassed, or if you just treat them like people, you got along fine. There's a lot of, I'm sure we've all heard stories of the military that were over there like being over dickish. Yeah. I don't know if it was just because the Middle Easterners in general were dehumanized, or because they were just, I don't know, but no, they were just regular people. Hell, we would normally stop for grab lunch from a little place down on, we named the streets after like, you can't pronounce Iraqi, but like north to south. North to south had female names, and east to west had male names. But like the main drag was called Fran, and there was a little guy that had running a kebab shop there. We'd pop in and get some lunch every couple of days whenever we were out, and he was a nice guy. We'd give him money, we get food. It was pretty good food. Actually, I wonder if there's any good kebab shops around here. Anyway. Hey, man.
Now you've got me wanting kebabs.
I know, right? Because, you know what? Because the stuff was fresh. Like, right next door was an actual butcher shop. All of our stuff's processed as hell. And here you are, you know, you pull up to the kebab shop and you hear the cows and goats mooing next door. You're like, yeah, okay, I guess that's fresh.
So you didn't ever really worry that one of these guys was going to attack you or anything?
It comes down to two mindsets. You can either, if you're going to worry about it, you're going to worry all the time and you're just going to go crazy. Or you're going to be so hyper tense all the time, you'll snap. Or you're just like, if it happens, it happens. You know, if you're comfortable in your training, I mean, they call it muscle memory when you do something enough, but it also applies to other things. Like, if you hear a gunshot or you hear an explosion, you should instinctively know how to react. And if you trust that training, then you just don't worry about it. I mean, you worry, but you're not always, you know. Otherwise, you're that paranoid guy who thinks the FBI is listening to his thoughts through the, you know, dentures in his mouth. And that's not a good way to go. Or it's going to be a long ass 7 months. Yeah. You just eventually, if it happens, it happens.
Were you guys ever ambushed?
Directly, no. I mean, we hit a couple IEDs once. Nothing huge. Like, I hit one and blew out the tire. I think I was unconscious a couple minutes. But by then, we had the new Humvees. Like, the doors were, like, thicker. Just crap. So it, like, scratched the paint.
Okay.
Because it was we're driving on the main street, and we would, like, go down to one end of the city and come back. It really wasn't that big. But we went down, and by the time we came back, apparently somebody put it there. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, because then we turned around and came back, driving the same path that we did, and then drove over it, and it blew. So it's like somebody just, it's like when you're watching TV and somebody throws out those little spike strips that the cops do. That's how quick he must have done it, because it was right next to like an open field. Yeah. So the guy must have sprinted out. After we drove by the first time, must have sprinted out, dropped it, ran back. I don't know. It was weird.
And no one got injured in that because of the
No, we blew like 2 or 3 tires on the Humvee, but we just pulled into one of our little bases, swapped them out, and were on our way again. Nice and quick, nice and painless. That deployment was actually pretty laid back, except for, you know, stupid lieutenants. But, you know, oh, my lieutenant was an idiot. Oh, I know I have to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but
He's the kind of guy, like, we'd go out and do 2 or 3 patrols a day, and he'd go, okay, show up 45 minutes early to our staging area, and then he'd pull out the map and he'd be like, pointing, this is a route. We would get objectives, like, oh, we want you to check this spot by the head shed, and then he would map out all the direct, and we're like, why don't we just go as long as we make all our checkpoints? And he started like, oh, let's drive down this road. Those are dirt roads. You know, hey, didn't we learn this lesson when we first got in country? And then, so I was the kind of guy I would tell my lead truck guy, like, no, because all of my vehicle commanders had been there before. This, like I said, this is their second time to Fallujah. I'm like, yeah, just as long as we're making the checkpoints, drive however you want to get there. That created a lot of tension between me and the lieutenant, which I didn't give a crap.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get belly shotted. We saw how this works.
Yeah.
So yeah, screw him. And he was one of those pretentious assholes. Pardon my language.
Did he try to get back at you for this, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, they always do that. You know, you get in trouble for. I don't know about this. You get in trouble, or you do something they don't agree with, but it's not against the rules. So then they make up some shit to get back at you later.
Yeah.
Does that mean? I mean, I'm nothing bad. Like, I didn't get a bad fitness report or anything. But yeah, he was one of those guys. He graduated from one of those prestigious schools, and he didn't. Whatever. I don't care. He's kind of a dick.
Yeah. So
he, yeah, that created a lot of crap between me and him. But I didn't care. All my guys made it home. I think the worst thing that happened to one of our guys is he got appendicitis. Whoop-de-doo. But then you always have the commanders, and like we had a first sergeant that was really bored. I love this rule. So we lived in this old, it's called Camp Pendleton. It was an old bath party luxury resort. It had like man-made lakes in it and stuff. Apparently Saddam used to have like race boat or speedboat races and crap. So all these little huts and stuff, and you know, after the war, all the Iraqi civilians came in and like stole it all, like the plumbing, the windows, all this crap. So we just had these shells of buildings, and they have the porta crappers across the road from where we lived. And our first sergeant's like, "Don't leave your don't leave your little house unless you're at least in PT gear. So one day, one of my guys, he woke up, he goes to the bathroom, he's just in his shorts, and he got a page 11 for doing that.
Page 11 is?
Basically a reprimand in your file. So yeah, because he woke up and had to pee. He got in trouble for not putting his shirt on to go across the street in the middle of summer in 130-degree weather. Yeah, I know, right?
That seems legit.
These are people that, again, goes back to the kind of person because everything we did was at a platoon level or lower. So the company staff, they got really bored, and they would do stuff like enforce stupid-ass rules. All right, maybe not stupid. Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
I think they're stupid. Hey, we're in a war zone. Don't forget to put your shirt on because you got to go to the bathroom. I don't know.
So, pretty much nothing really that eventful happened.
Nothing exciting, or at least not to us. I mean, other of our platoons, they like get into firefights. And I guess one time they were driving. One unit was driving down the road, and they have Fallujah's got like a little industrial section in the north and the southeast, like all warehouses and stuff. They were driving down there. Some guys came out of a building wearing suicide vests, and they were looking at each other, and then our guys just turned their gun and just started shooting at them. See, we missed all that fun stuff. I don't know.
That's
all right. It's not fun in general, but when you're in an armored vehicle and somebody's shooting at you with AK-47s, and it's still far enough away where the suicide vests won't actually do anything, and all you have to do is rotate your 50 caliber machine gun down the alley and fire. I mean, 50 caliber bullets are they're lethal for small armored vehicles, let alone people.
Yeah.
There's not much left of you, so you always hear those stories and you're like, why wasn't I there?
So, when did you leave?
We left October of 07. Got back. And then that was pretty much the highlight of my career. I re-enlisted a couple months later, and my choices were I could stay with the unit, get a $20,000 bonus, or I could pick my own duty station. Well, my dumb ass picked my own duty station, because who needs 20 grand? Well, I also have the mentality of I've been over 3 times and managed to still be alive. I don't want to push my luck.
Fair enough.
Plus, at that point, I think my son was about 4 or 5, and I basically missed half his life. Like when we got back my 3rd time, I went to pick him up, and he was crying because he didn't know who the hell I was. That's depressing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I'll stay stateside for a while. And then I ended up being, where the hell was I? Camp Johnson, which is kind of a weird cyclical thing. That was the base I went to originally to learn to be an administrative clerk.
Where was that at?
It's like right next to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. Okay. There's like Camp Lejeune, then there's Camp Johnson, Camp Geiger, and the Air Station. Camp Geiger is where they train the infantry. Camp Johnson's where they teach the mechanics, the administrative clerks, the financial clerks, and the box kickers, warehouse guys.
Yeah.
Their school's 2 weeks. It's like, why are you even here? So I basically ended back up where I started. And the only jobs there for grunts were sergeant of the guard. Basically, before a Marine goes into job training, if there's not a class starting, they stick them in a barracks and make them do the crap jobs. Like, oh, hey, go help the maintenance guys, or we got 40 guys to stand around and tell their Marines to make sure their shirts are tucked in. It was pretty mindless, but I was fine with that because I wanted mindless. I wanted to be home, and pretty much not that exciting. I just sat around with a bunch of other. Of course, the problem was the mentality. There were like 7 of us there. There were guys from 1st Battalion, 6th Marines, 3rd Battalion, me, and we'd actually all been in Iraq together, all of the units around. So our mentality was different than a bunch of guys learning to be, accountants.
Yeah.
So needless to say, there were multiple clashes. Though my first year there was probably my greatest year in the Marine Corps. My commanding officer was a guy I'd served with during the invasion. So, again, back to the small world. So, yeah, I got to basically get away with murder. I'm not saying I did anything wrong, but we had pretty lax guidelines at this point. When guys you would serve with in combat are your bosses. But as all of our sergeant major was, the top enlisted guy was actually with 3-6. He was like 5'1". His actual last name was Meanie. He was single, and he rode a Harley. Yes, everything you could imagine. He would have like an NCO call for all the corporals and sergeants, and he would like, oh, first 2 kegs are on me. You know, the kind of a senior enlisted guy that you only hear of in like fantasies.
Yeah.
And like I think he was gone within 6 months. We were at a we were at a physical training thing, and some first sergeant pissed him off, so he laid him out.
Like hit him?
Yeah, from what I hear. And then he got transferred to a deploying unit, which I think in hindsight is what he wanted. I mean, he was those kind of guy. You could like just drop him off in Iraq and he would live there because he's that kind of guy. Yeah. But once those guys started leaving, then we got the pricks, and that's essentially where my career ended. Because I couldn't get promoted to staff sergeant. In the Marine Corps, if you don't make E6 by 13, you're out. So.
Okay, so you were forcibly discharged.
I was unable to re-enlist.
Okay.
And then that goes back to when they took my 2.5, 3 years time and grade. Because as an infantry Marine, you normally had to be in a sergeant 2 or 3 years before you're even eligible for promotion. And by the time, so that was 04. So I think it was in the Marine Corps. You have Marines in the zone, below zone, and above zone. So like they need 100 dudes, they'll put 200 guys in the zone, and that's all based on how long you've been a E5. And I think my first year I was in the below zone. That's basically like, oh, we can't find enough good guys, so we'll go down here and look. So by the time and that just happened to coincide with the downsizing. They were going to cut 20 or 30,000 Marines. They were promoting 400 Marines in my job a year. The year I was finally eligible, they cut it down like 90. It's like, so that, along with my lost time and grade, I should have been eligible for promotion 2 years earlier. But now it was just a cluster fudge. And it kind of came to a head, which I was fine with because I was unable to re-enlist through no fault of my own. They gave me a nice severance package, which was fun. I mean, if you're going to get out.
Might as well get a severance from it, right?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, at that point, I think I had 15 years in. A year and a half later, they offered the 15-year retirements.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, I know, right? But anyway, that's pretty much the bulk of it.
So that was your last duty station, then you separated. What'd you do after?
Parted around a while. I bought a house in Jacksonville where Camp Pendleton is. And of course, 2010, guess what happened in 2008? Along with downsizing, the housing market was just so I couldn't leave. It was so sad. Because living in a military town, when you're no longer in the military, it's like, bummed around a while. Then I finished my first master's degree. I'd started while I was in Iraq the third time. I was bored and like, I'm going to go to school. And then, I don't know, stuff just happened. And I got sick of living there. And then you learn the whole "it's who you know" adage. Like I would have tried to apply for the jobs on base and never seemed to get them. But now it's just me whining.
I mean, like the transition from military to civilian.
Well, in a military town like that, the jobs pay crap
Yeah.
because there's always an overabundance of workers, military spouses and stuff, so they can pay you less money. Because if you quit or you get fired, they got 10 more lined up in the back. So the jobs just sucked. And any good jobs on base, it's who you knew. Like one time there was a educational counselor job open at the base education center. I had a bachelor's in counseling and a master's in education. I didn't even get an interview. So things like that. You know. And after that, I just gave up and eventually let's just pack it in and move. So when my marriage started going south, my second one, I just grabbed my kid and moved back here to Michigan and said, hey, let's go back to school again because they gave me an extra year free GI Bill. So nothing amazing.
And that's what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'm going to school with and running into people like you who ask me to do things like this, which isn't bad, I guess.
And
taking Ortho's English classes.
Yeah. So nothing.
No.
The military didn't really prepare you for the civilian life?
In a general context, they do not. For me, this is going to sound egotistical again, but I didn't need them to. Because, I'd done 4 years, gotten out the first time, then I went back in. And then when I got out the next time, I think the best thing that prepared me for transition was still living in a military town and knowing how it is. And then by the time I get back up here, it's a totally different community. Like for one, people around here actually like veterans.
Yeah.
Where when you're in a military town, it's like, oh, you're just another veteran. Get the hell out of my face. So, no, they put you like through a 3-day class when you get out. So here's how you do a resume. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. There's no. They give you information that you can find on your own. They don't actually. It's like coming back from combat. They're like, hey, don't beat your family members. They don't actually transition you from a combat scenario to back to peacetime or back to life back in the States.
Yeah.
It's done really poorly.
Was that hard for you?
Not for me, but for because having the. I think it was easier for me because my first time in Iraq, I didn't really see combat, but I got enough of it to know what was going on. So when I went back the second time, I knew what to expect. Plus having, the because having the degree in social work, I already knew the generic psychological aspects and all this and that, so I could help prep myself. But, it was just one of those weird things where what I already knew just happened to fit what I was going to do. It's really weird how it all came together. But I could also see at the same time that for the regular guys coming back, that it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything. It was one of those dichotomies. It's like, come back if you're feeling sad or whatever, talk to somebody. But yet at that time, if you went and saw a shrink, your career is pretty much over. Yeah. They've destigmatized a lot in the last 5-10 years. But at that time, they're telling you to do it, but everybody also knew if you did, you're pretty much done. Yeah. So, and I don't know, it's just that's where you see the transition of what it was like to what it is now. And though to my understanding, it's still not that great now, but yeah, and from military to civilian life, good luck with that. I mean, they tell you a lot of things, but they don't actually help you. Having the information and using that information in a meaningful manner are two different things. Yeah. So it's like, you come back here, have a book, get the hell out. It's like, it's not the same thing as actually helping someone transition. Yeah. So once you get those discharge papers, go away. I don't care anymore. You are no longer under my command. Get the F out. I don't care. So now you're out there alone. Who do I go to? You have to find out all this on your own. Like nobody tells you that there's veteran service officers, that you can go to the American Legion, the VFW, the DAV, and all these other accessible things. They may mention them in passing, but they don't actually tell you what they do, what they can offer, and all this other stuff. But whatever. Hey, that's just the military. Well, once you're no longer able to die for your country, they don't give a crap.
So, are you? Would you recommend the military to someone?
It really depends on the person, and what you want, and what you're willing to do.
How would you feel about your son joining the military?
I told him to join the Air Force.
Fair enough.
If you join the Marine Corps, I'd smack him upside the head. Like, I was stupid. You don't need to be stupid. Or if you could do it in a capacity which you can maximize your benefits but minimize your risks. I mean, again, that sounds kind of selfish or something. But at the end of the day, I don't want my kids signing up and going off to die. I mean, I don't think anybody does. But if he wants to join, get some job experience, some military experience, and some money for college, well, that's great. But if that's all you want out of it, don't join in and enlist in the Army as a soldier, as an infantry. That's just the dumbest thing. But some people like that. And again, that's why I'm saying it depends on the person. If somebody's all gung-ho, want to serve my nation and go to war, well, hot damn, sign up and come infantry if that's what you want. But some people, and it's the aptitude as well, some people they could be the smartest person in the room, but if they're unable to listen to authority and keep their mouth shut, probably not a good choice. But that's just me.
All right. That just about wraps us up. Was there anything else you wanted to say, or?
No, I'm good.